Welcome back, my friends, to an episode of TFT Hyper Roll in which I will not be forcing Mercenaries. A lot of people have requested to see me do a forced Mercenary build for Hyper Roll, and I'm not going to do it. The reason I'm not going to do it is because Mercenaries is a really specific build that relies on lose streaking to get better items, because you get more and more items in your chest, etc., and it can work really well in ranked. Hyper Roll, lose streaking's not necessarily a good idea, because you only have a certain number of losses before you're gone. But if the game tells you right off the bat that it's a good idea to play Mercenaries, listen to the game. And when it hands you a Gangplank and a Quinn off the first NPC round, you might want to consider it. Now, obviously, I'm still buying out the whole board, just in case it changes its mind or doesn't tell me exactly which way it wants to go, but I'm at least open to trying it here. Now, I am really hoping that the first augments are going to show me something mercenary, but no, kind of telling me not to do it. Striker's really strong, and maybe I should do that, but I grab makeshift armor and decide to head into Mercenaries by picking up She Who Shall Not Be Named. Why shall she not be named? Because in a previous video I said Yowie, because I tend to talk fast and Ilawi just comes out Yowie. But then I was corrected in the comments, but then on top of it, a friend who lives in Hawaii called and said you're all wrong. It's technically supposed to be Ilawi. So, she's now She Who Shall Not Be Named. And that is what she shall stay for the remainder of this video. Y'all want to call her whatever you want? Have a party. I'm not naming her anymore. But anyway, as you can see, I picked up a bunch of her, and I have my Mercenary chest, and I'm actually doing fairly decently, and very surprised when She Who Shall Not Be Named ends up winning that fight. I'm stacking my items onto Gangplank because he can pilfer additional gold if he hits his ult. So I give him the IE and then a Spear of Sojin so that I can pick up that little extra gold, which I go and grab here just so I can get that extra Rek'Sai, because I'm planning on using bruisers here. I had figured since She Who Shall Not Be Named is close to going gold, bruisers would be a really good backup, and especially with the makeshift armor, that will help keep them a little bit tanky if I stack more of the items onto champions like Gangplank, who can keep pilfering additional gold. I'm actually very pleased and surprised at how this game is going so far. I've usually found that Mercenaries aren't particularly strong, but it's often because I haven't picked up an early Gangplank, who is a very strong champion once he gets into the game, but as a 3 cost, you can't rely on him being there for you. The second set of augments reinforces my bruiser's backup concept. It's a good idea anyway with Mercenaries, since Tahm Kench is a bruiser, so it's a good thing to bring into your build, but having Shrug It Off and nearly a gold that who shall not be named, and now a gold that who shall not be named, you're definitely in pretty good shape. I've thrown in a Tryndamere for the moment just because he's a strong champion and can do a lot of damage up front. In this case, he took Kate's ult and then allowed the rest of the team to win. The NPC round gave me lots of goodies, including a Nico's help that will matter later, so keep it in mind. But I was torn about what to take, and I ended up going with the bow. I'm ultimately wanting to bring more bruisers into this fight, and Vi is just an awesome bruiser to have. I put the Bloodthirster onto Gangplank so he can stay strong, get rid of Tryndamere, throw Vi in because I know she is incredibly powerful. I ultimately plan on making Vi my main tank in this build, and having Gangplank be my damage and try to keep items off of other people so that the makeshift armor can work out. Vi will be getting the Shrug It Off bonus, so it's not like she's not getting anything from the augments. We suffer our first loss, which is fine because it helps with Mercenaries. I picked up a Corki along the way also to help with Gangplank. Because they're both twin shots, it's going to give him a chance to do double attacks and increase his attack damage. And look how much gold he is pilfering along the way. So for the final augment, again, I'm hoping for something that's really going to help, but nothing mercenary-y. But then I had kind of a crazy idea. Since Quinn is on my team, I have one challenger. I can get a challenger crest. And I decide I'm going to put it on someone who is really good at charging in on people, since that's what challengers do. And therefore, Vi becomes a challenger. Then of course we run into one of the 7 or 8 Yordle teams in the lobby, and they prove to be a little bit of a problem because they have an incredibly tanky Vex and a Corki who is just able to turn out damage. But losses aren't a terrible thing because it's Mercenaries and you get a bonus for it, but you only can do this a few times. Now you may have noticed I have a 2-star Misfortune just hanging out on the bench. The reason she's not in the match at this point is she's not going to trigger any additional bonuses. 3 to 4 Mercenaries isn't going to make a difference. I don't have another sniper, so at this point she doesn't help that much, and I can just keep her there waiting to go in the next round. Now, thanks to having lost to the Yordle team, I get a couple of gifts out of the chest, and one of them includes a Nico's Help. I now have 3 Nico's Helps and can take Gangplank up to gold if I want to, presuming I don't get more along the way. I'm also possibly thinking about taking Vi up to silver if I can't find a second one of her. It's a tough choice between the two, but I'm hoping rolling enough will give me the answer, and when I see the Vi, I know, okay, I'm safe to take Gangplank to gold using those Nico's Helps. Since I'm still running makeshift armor, I don't want to put too many items on too many people, so I decide to ultimately go with the blue buff for Misfortune so she's casting more often and the Morellonomicon will do more damage, and go ahead and put the Deathblade onto She Who Shall Not Be Named, because it'll do a lot of damage from her since it scales with the star level of the champion. Now, I mentioned earlier how much of a beast that Vi can be, and this video will pretty much showcase it. It ends up 4v1 against a Vi and a really strong Syndicate team. But Vi is not going to be stopped, and she will finish off the match and knock that player out. And as a bonus for winning this one, my reward is actually a Tome of Traits. So I check it out and have a couple of interesting options. Rek'Sai is a striker, so I could get the striker emblem to put on She Who Shall Not Be Named, which would increase her attack damage even more, or the bruiser emblem, because Tahm Kench is a bruiser, and that would then ultimately take me to 6 bruisers. Don't ask me why I put it on Corki. I should have put it on Misfortune, because all it did was make Corki a little less tanky. But this is one of the teams that frightens me the most because they have a gold Tryndamere that can shred a ton of armor. But Vi, she just doesn't stop and finishes them off, bringing us into the top 4. I'll save you all the rolling. I was able to find my Tahm Kench, so I'm able to go to the 6 bruisers, 5 mercenaries. But I'm also going to give you the weird moment from this match. Notice we have Tahm Kench on the left, Ahri on the far right, who disappears from the board and somehow ends up in Tahm Kench's mouth, spit out, and finished. And just one more time, I know he has a long tongue, but not that long. Little bug there, Riot. Check it out. And here I am with the build I swore I'd never do. Well, didn't swear I'd never do it, but I wasn't going to force it. But it's now a 1v1 against a team that I honestly think I can beat because I beat them before, and now I have an additional bruiser. Vi, she just does not give up. The shrug it off keeps everyone up. Tom Kench is chewing things up and spitting them out. They're left with one Victor who tries one last cast, and it's over. But what was kind of even cooler is I don't play my main account that much anymore. I decided to play a few games over the weekend that weren't forced builds or anything like that, and I knew I was pretty close to going up to the next level. And usually in those occasions, I'll play it safe and take something like Striker that I know I can use to climb. But I went for it and was rewarded for going Mercenaries with being promoted to Hyper on my main. I'm going to go back to showing force builds. There'll be more coming up. If you have any suggestions, leave them in the comments below. I will try to get to all of them except for Mercenaries. I'm not going to force that. Hope you enjoyed the video and have an absolutely awesome day.